What's up, gang? What is on the news today? MSG consumption can cause illness, and what's its relationship with Chinese restaurant syndrome? Let's discuss about it briefly. In this content included misconception about monosodium glutamate in Chinese restaurant syndrome, symptoms causes by the MSG consumption, and then the debunking in misconception on MSG.
Hello, good day to you. Muhammad Najib is here, and for my part, I am going to explain about the history of Chinese restaurant syndrome and how it is associated with MSG. Now, the story of CRS was discovered by Dr. Robert Holman Kwok in 1969. Friends and colleagues gathered for a feast at a Chinese restaurant. Feeling unwell for the first 20 minutes, they experienced quite similar symptoms. He wrote a letter to the New England Journal of Medicine sharing his experience. Along came numerous letters suggesting that the ingredients used may be the culprit, while some pointed out that eating practices may contribute to the illness. It did not take long before New York Times to gain traction on the letters. On 19th May 1969, the New York Times published a news article titled "Chinese Restaurant Syndrome Puzzles Doctors." Fear of Chinese food soon became real. People began to flood NEJM with their accounts of the illness, stating similar symptoms or even worse. People began to avoid Chinese food despite the effort to dismiss such news and rumors. People are more inclined to believe on social norms and culture to determine what is safe rather than what science have to tell. The fear spreads like a wildfire. Dr. Schomburg and Big fights against the use of MSG, demanded that the MSG needs to be put under further investigation. They demanded that MSG needs to be removed from baby food, MSG be removed from Food and Drug Administration list of safe food additives, and set a new guideline on consumption of MSG by pregnant women. They aim high, so they take the case to the Congress. They succeeded for the first demand. MSG is banned from baby food. However, FDA will not remove MSG from the safe food list additives since there is no conclusion reached by both parties. A new guideline came out limiting the amount of MSG that can be consumed per day. The effects of MSG were first studied by Dr. Only in 1969. The rats were the main subject of the test. The rats exhibit brain lesion along with substantial increase in weight. The rats were found dead, especially the young ones, after the injection of MSG. But not all of people seem to accept the results. The pro-MSG side pointed out that the experiment set up by Dr. Only is methodologically flawed, unable to recreate similar results, and unrealistic in terms of intake of MSG. They accuse Dr. Only for fear-mongering and stirs the peace. On the opposition side, Dr. Adrian Samuels came up with the statement that the research was sponsored by the industry since most of the researchers are employed by them to protect their finance. The war ensues for the next decade till 1980s, but it seems as that the public is still in the dark about MSG. 100 undergraduate dental students in Chennai, India reported that they are aware of MSG and are avoiding such additives in food from their diet. Still, there are more of them lack the knowledge regarding MSG.
Hello everyone, so today I am going to elaborate more about the symptoms of MSG, or its proper term, monosodium glutamate symptom complex. So, the symptoms of MSG was first referred as Chinese restaurant syndrome until a complete report regarding the syndrome was distributed by the Federation of American Societies for Experimental Biology, FASEB. Hence, the not so much insulting but rather more comprehensive term monosodium glutamate side effect complex was proposed. The MSG symptoms observed include burning sensation toward the rear of neck, lower arms and chest, facial pressure or snugness, chest torment, cerebral pain or headache, queasiness, palpitation, numbness toward the rear of neck, emanating to arms as well as the back, shivering, and lastly bronchospasm, which only been observed only in asthmatic cases. Now I am going to elaborate more about some of the MSG complex side effects that is commonly happened. The first one is headaches. MSG is reported to trigger headaches and migraines. In an examination by Schoenberg et al. 1969 of monosodium glutamate indication complex, MSG challenges were related with migraines in minority of cases. MSG has also been recorded as one of numerous dietary triggers of intense headache by Millichap and Yi 2003. However, to put it plainly, MSG is commonly associated to headache and cerebral pain, but there is still lack of information to hold it guilty as the cause of it. Next, we have asthmatic bronchospasm as one of the most well-known monosodium glutamate side effect complex. And it is started by a report from Allen and Baker 1981 of two ladies who suffered perilous asthma 11 and 14 hours after ingesting MSG-contained food they had from Chinese restaurants. The advancement of serious asthma 12 hours after ingestion in the two patients were related to single-blind oral challenges with 2.5 capsule containing MSG. Next, we have angioedema as one of monosodium glutamate side effects, where a solitary instance of angioedema without urticaria clearly activated by MSG has been accounted for by Squire 1987. Beside that, we have a 50-year-old elderly person that reported he had repetitive attacks of angioedema of the face and limits transiently identified with ingestion of soup base containing MSG. An open test with the soup base, a blinded test with the soup base, and a solitary blinded fake treatment controlled test with MSG 250 mg all came about in angioedema by 16 to 24 hours.
Debunking the misconception on MSG. What are the issues? Public usually associate MSG with CRS. This misconception exists ever since in the mid to late 19th century. Some might wonder, does this misconception exist as a political and business bargaining chips? Well, that topic is still debatable up to this day. What is really happening though? According to an article, the topic CRS, or specifically the negative stereotype on the Chinese ethnicity, are often being the issue in the news and medical journal topics rather than the MSG itself. People often being more radical towards the issue of CRS rather than MSG. Well, everything happened for a reason. And this particular case, it happened due to the fact that a strong connection is known between Chinese cooking practices and MSG. And fun fact is that there are also MSG users in non-Chinese cuisine. So what do we discover? After a mind-blowing discovery, we find out that the association of MSG to CRS is a topic that rises due to the hatred of a certain people toward the ethnicity Chinese, in which being used as a platform for a racial discrimination. That's a sad case. Thus, CRS has no relation at all toward the chemical compound itself, MSG. As a proof or evidence, in one article, a double-blind study with 55 subjects shown a significant number of reaction toward the MSG rather than a placebo, in which none complained having any type of CRS symptom. And another article showed that the result from majority of epidemiologic studies revealed that there was no correlation between CRS and MSG intake. How about illness? Another misconception on MSG is that it can cause several complications in health that can lead to severe illnesses. Well, example of that is that glutamate symptom complex such as glutamate intolerance or other symptom or allergies such as asthma, urticaria, angioedema, and rhinitis. The truth is that although glutamate is abundant in the central nervous system, CNS, and function as a neurotransmitter, but the addition of MSG should have no influence on the synaptic glutamate concentration, according to an article. The possibility of MSG creating any illnesses or health complication related to nervous system will be non-existent since it will not provide any significant changes in the CNS. Am I right? MSG does not trigger the illnesses or allergies such as asthma, urticaria, angioedema, and rhinitis, according to an article. However, MSG, when consumed in a large dose, approximately 3 grams, directly into an empty stomach without digesting any food first, will create an MSG syndrome complex, according to an article. But any normal person is unlikely to consume such a large dose of MSG directly into an empty stomach. I mean, we use it as a flavor enhancer, but nobody in their right consciousness will take it just for fun, I guess. This evidence cannot be taken as a solid proof of MSG creating illnesses, since it is inconclusive and inaccurate.
Is it MSG bad or good? In summary, there is no compelling proof in the existing research literature that MSG is the trigger of any severe acute or persistent medical conditions in the wider public. Thank you.